enough. That was good enough.
Hey, listeners, here's another episode of Good Enough, the show where the questions are all made up and the points don't matter. And I'm Sam Lewis.
Did you
I
get
made them
that?
up. I make them up. You make yours up too.
Are you sure Drew Carey didn't say that in his show?
I'm a plagiarist.
The improv show.
I'm a plagiarist.
Okay. All right.
And by the way, I'm pretty certain some of your questions are made up by ChatGTP, which is AI.
Yeah. Well, so is Google, and so is the other things. But at least they're not nefarious. Well, Google might be a little nefarious, but Machiavellian.
I'm going to look that word up on ChatGTP.
Yeah.
Hey, my name's Sam Lewis. I'm here in Bloomington, Illinois, and my friend over there is named
Mark Lips.
And where are you at, Mark?
And I'm in Northern California. We have sponsors. Yes, we do.
Sponsors.
We do have sponsors. They are nonprofit sponsors, meaning they get a great rate, and the rate is 0. So now we have the Right Choice Farm and Catering in Northern California. We've got a full service catering company with event space and a barn and orchard and vineyard and all of those things, plus my newsletter that I've been doing for over 25 years. The Happy Friday Neighbors newsletter comes out every Friday morning. I wish you were on it. And so, Sam?
This end of the country, we're sponsored by Pride Staff. It's a full-service staffing agency, tip to hire, direct hire, contract labor. We focus on office admin, light industrial, and warehouse. We're also sponsored by Sam's Substack, the Finally Friday Philosophy, which is sort of a newsletter, and it comes out Friday too. We're competing newsletters, Mark.
I stole from it again, I think.
It's that's just secondary plagiarism, because I'm sure I stole it from somebody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it comes out on Friday. We know you're not working. You might as well be reading one of our 2 newsletters.
Everybody's gone to either staying at home or a 3-day week, 4-day week.
Or it's Friday and you're at work and you're not going to work.
Yeah. Well,
it's called F off Friday, don't you know?
Yeah. Thank God.
So F off with us.
So, hey, listen, Senator McGuire just spoke at our Rotary meeting, and, it's interesting. Now, there was a reporter there, and the reporter interviewed me afterwards, and so I'll be curious to see how this is translated.
Did he think you were Senator McGuire, or
did he? Did. He thought I was, I told him actually I was running for president, one of them that was running, but no, you always wonder how it's going to turn out, because he's just writing feverishly. And I'm going,
you should run for Speaker of the House. I heard that job's open.
Yeah, I tell you. Wow. And this guy, he talked about homelessness, education, the fires here in Northern California, the insurance industry, and the fact that a lot of insurance companies have pulled out of certain areas because of the fires and things like that, and what they're doing, and the bills they just recently passed, and all of that. Didn't get to ask him about the state budget. Ran out of time. But
did you ask him about AI?
I did not.
1 minute to go.
Yeah, but he wants to come back, and you know what? In all seriousness, I would ask him about AI. Are they going to put any kind of parameters on it? Are they, going to corral it in some way? Otherwise, I'll be talking to a bot at the house, in Sacramento, the capital. So, but anyway, it's hard. I would love to have recorded this whole thing. I didn't record it, and this reporter will probably put down some things, and then look at it 6 months or even a year from now.
Right.
And just to see, because all of it sounded great. I mean, he got applause during certain things. It was like a State of the Union sort of, and homelessness, we're putting $33 billion into doing this, and we're going to get new housing built, and we're our public schools are jumping from $83 a person to $1,300 a person student. I mean, all these incredible things, and it's execution. I want to see that it's executed.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
You can have money and you can have promises, but until somebody executes
I got to tell you, he was impressive. This guy, which is really interesting, and I had him say, I had all our interactors, our Rotary high school kids there. So we bust them all over and all that. And that he was elected. This is Senator Mike McGuire. He was elected to the school board when he was 19 years old.
I didn't even know what a school board was when I was 19.
Yeah, I know. I remember what I thought the school board was.
We all know it.
Yeah, but
I know what being school board is.
Adults look at that, and that is a stepping stone. A lot of people, school board, city council, supervisor, and assemblyman and assembly person. So that's pretty amazing, though.
Yeah, it really is.
And he was the youngest senator or something. He's terming out in 26. So, as they say, he's going for, the rumor is he's going for the insurance board. I asked him, I said, the press is here. You want to make an announcement? 2026? And he goes, oh, no. I said, okay. All right. So, but anyway, that was a big get. We basically did the whole meeting for him, and it was fun. But are you a singing Rotary Club, or do you not? No, we don't do that. Don't do that. I've had a couple of people ask me if we want to do that, and I said, no, I don't want to do that.
The club I was a member of, I was a singing club. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you probably did.
I don't know. There's something about singing together with a group. I guess that's why.
Yeah, no, we don't sing. We now, if we did sing, I'd do something classic rock and roll, like AC/DC or something, and see if we couldn't do something.
Back in Black.
Yeah, Black and Black, but not a singing.
Highway to Hell.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I should have played for the senator coming in. Now, leading up for the walk-up song for the senator. Highway to Hell. So
or Metallica's Enter the Sandman.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. It's 4:00, so let's go meet our guest.
Hey, I can't wait for you to introduce her, and we get started. She sounds interesting.
Too. Yeah, let's go. See you on the other side.
And you've got it.
This is our deja vu episode, right,
Sure
Mark? Laurie?
Right. Well, that's because listeners, thank you for putting up with us in the first few minutes. But because now we have Laurie Swanson. By the way, I know her so well now, and I've never really met her, except that we've already done one more cast with her, another cast with her, and but Knucklehead over there somehow.
Hey, you get what you pay for. What are we paying our technical guy?
I know, but
I'm cutting a salary in half.
Cutting it in half right now.
You will find it as soon as we record this.
I know that.
So
I don't think it's there though. I've looked everywhere. Laurie sent me an email. Yeah, I looked. It's not there. It's all of our items are there in nice order and everything. It's gone.
It's in there. It's in there somewhere. It doesn't go away. That's the problem.
Well, this is the best way to find it is do another one.
That's
right. Exactly. So Laurie, Sam, you want to explain who our guest is to the viewers?
Well, I'm gonna give me 1 second because I called up her website. Laurie is
here.
She's an overachiever.
Yeah.
And every time I read her bio here, I kind of like, man, what have I done with my life?
Yeah. Well, I just know she has a lot of knowledge and wisdom.
She started off as a coder. Did you know that, Mark? She started off in coding, which right there.
World War II? You mean for the?
She was coding, and that right there, that puts her way over my head.
Oh yeah. Well, third graders.
She started 3 businesses. If I've got my count right, it could be more.
That's right.
It could be.
Well,
more.
you've got to land a job, Laurie. You've got to land a job. Come on.
I know. Quit that old entrepreneur stuff. And
yeah, her resume, she's job jumping, and
yeah.
you know.
To her own jobs, to her
Right.
own.
It's her
My
own
own
job.
company. Ah,
She's fired
No, no.
herself.
I'm
hired
surprised I
herself.
hired myself after all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That interview.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Now, how
Yeah.
I know Laurie is she's a TED speaker. She's got a TED Talk. That's big. And she caught me with her. I wasn't her speaking coach. I don't remember. I don't think
No.
so. But her message caught me, and I let her talk about this chart that she showed that really snagged me good. And it may be because of my age and where I'm at in life. No, it is because of my age and where I'm at in life. Not maybe, but it hit on a nerve that of some things I've been thinking about. Mark, you and I talked about them back in February when I was at your house in California. And so Mark and I kind of sat around the dining room drinking coffee and watching the pigs walk through the living room, and I let him explain that later.
What? Let's interview
Yeah.
Mark instead. Sounds way more interesting.
He's a pretty interesting guy, but
So
that's
here's
not our
the-
topic today. But
Laurie, here at the farm, we have 2 mini pigs that we rescue. They don't live in the house. I think I was just letting them in the house just for grins. Letting one wouldn't come in, and the other, but we weaned them in the house. They were just
Wow.
little things, and they would have died. 2 separate mothers, but it was a horrible situation. Anyway, you know, the nice thing about coming back to you is I've thought more about this wisdom and academia, and you know, it's funny. It's almost like it's too bad kids can't get their Social Security early to invest, and yet it's also too bad that kids, when I say kids, young adults, don't get that wisdom earlier.
Right?
Invest, because wisdom. This is what I think we should focus on with you, Laurie, because I think this is what first got my interest anyway. When Sam was telling me that that's what you were doing your TED Talk on was, you know, knowledge versus wisdom.
Yeah, it's really the the TED Talk is called Why People Really Hate Their Jobs. And I came across this idea or this topic because I was at a point, you talk about having, started my second business, which was actually really the longest business I had, over 2 decades. And there was a point where I started to feel like I'd lost my ambition. I'd always been a go-getter, always been someone that achieved things, went after things, and I wasn't feeling it anymore. And I couldn't figure out what was happening with me. And in that process, I heard a interview with this guy, David, or what is his name? David Brooks. And he's an author and an academic.
Yeah,
and
one of my favorites.
yeah, he's great. And he had written a book called From Strength to Strength.
Strength to Strength.
And it was based off of this research done by Raymond Patel, who is a psychologist, and he'd written a book back in the 70s about the fact that we have 2 different types of intelligence. So he called them 2 general types of intelligence. One is what I call the learner intelligence, or what he called fluid, or what he called crystallized intelligence, which I call wisdom intelligence. And so the whole premise behind it is that when we're born, we have both types of intelligence, both the learner and the wisdom. But the wisdom is almost like it's just dormant. There's nothing happening.
It's not developed.
Right. And the learner is in charge. It's in the power seat. It's in the driver's seat. It's going, and it's that, and we all can relate to it. It's all about trial and error learning, diving in, making a mess, making mistakes, figuring things out, and having no prior knowledge about basically whatever we're faced with in that moment. We have no prior knowledge. And that's what we spend most of our time doing for the first 30 years of our life, is tapping into that learner intelligence. Now, as that learner intelligence is climbing and in the driver's seat, coming behind it slowly but surely is this wisdom intelligence. And that's that intelligence that, is really, the learner is its foundation. it's taking everything we've learned and it starts to make connections between different things we've learned. It starts to crystallize ideas. We start to use deductive reasoning. And the next thing you know, it has surpassed the learner intelligence. If you look at it like two arcs on a graph, the learner is climbing, this, wisdom is following slowly behind, and then the learner drops like a rock. Doesn't go away. We have them both forever, but it really does drop. And so, which means even though it drops, it is still there and we can learn new things, which is a bit of a myth. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that isn't true because learner intelligence is always there, but we can shorten the path between, oh, there's a problem and what's our solution, because now we're tapping into this wisdom intelligence. And what I, recognized in myself was, as I was thinking about what's my next chapter, I kept relying back to everything that I knew from in my 20s and thinking that that was how I was going to solve this problem in my 50s. And it wasn't working and it was frustrating. And then I realized, oh, wait a second, I'm trying to, start everything new instead of kind of saying, what do I already know here? What can I do going forward that takes advantage of the things I love, the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I already know, and make it easier and create something new for myself that I'm enthusiastic and engaged in again. And so that was kind of the whole thing. But I agree, the wisdom intelligence is
the thing is, I think we, just by the nature of thinking this is how we have to raise kids, is keep bombarding them with facts.
right.
A, B, C, D, E, F. 1 + 1 = 2. All of these things. By the way, and speaking about you looking back into your 20s and wondering in your 50s, did you say 50s?
I did.
Wow, you don't look.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Sammy and I don't look like we're close to 70 either. So yeah, feel free to take back the
I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't.
So, but in hockey, we used to call that, when we play younger teams, we used to call that age and treachery over youth and energy. Because our wisdom over
Right.
there is energy. And do you think, so here's interesting, because something we talk about all the time is common sense, right? That in today's world, bombarded with so much information, digital, and we're afraid, when I was 4 years old, we were running around the neighborhood. And I don't think we had fewer predators then than we do now, but we weren't so scared from news media and things like that. And so, you would never think to let your 4-year-old run around now. But that's where a lot of wisdom and common sense came from growing up versus just,
Well, I mean, are you saying, so I think it's really, really interesting, Mark, like there's some experiential, I guess I would call it learning, like hands-on learning that you get when you go out and build the tree fort, right? You're going out, you're building the tree fort with your friends. And now we're watching someone build a tree fort during a game and then getting, a badge or something for that. And I do think that it can impact, future wisdom and how we make connections. But I don't know. I'm not a scientist or anything, but I think that's an interesting.
That is, but isn't that the difference? One is learning facts, truths, things like that. And then the other is wisdom through experiences, through life.
Well, not exactly. Not exactly. So learning, when you're learning, like how to tie your shoelace. So you're learning how to tie your shoelaces and you're messing it up. And they're like, well, the rabbit has 2 ears. And then you go in the house and they're trying all these ways to teach a young child how to tie their shoelaces. But then one day, boom, the child can tie their shoelaces. That's learner wisdom. And it's through trial and error. Now, when they decide to, put a bow on a package for a holiday gift, now they've tapped into wisdom. They're like, oh, I've seen this before. I learned how to tie my shoes. That seems very much like how I'm watching that person tie the packages. Maybe I can do that too. And that's wisdom. That's very simple
Oh, but that's perfect.
idea about it, but learning isn't just about, we do during that period from 0 to 30, we're bombarded with data and info. I mean, we're always bombarded with, I don't know, 70,000 items of data every single day, something like, 50 to 70, I think they say. It's
Yeah,
thousands.
most of it's on sale.
Yeah. But, when we're younger, we're just taking it all in and trying to make sense of it. And we don't really, because you're getting so much data, that's where your brain will put it into different buckets and start to make associations of the data. So that it can, take the stress off of your brain and stress off of decision making. But yeah, we're gathering a lot of information, data, facts, we're learning math, we're learning all of those things. And then at some point, we're using that information to help us continue to grow and learn, but not necessarily from scratch. We've already done that. Now we can make a connection that, again, shortens that path between, tying my tennis shoes and tying a bow on a package.
I think it's a little like, you start recognizing patterns of things that,
Right.
and that at least that's kind of how I see it. And maybe and I don't mean literally patterns, but sometimes literally
Sure.
patterns, but, you start seeing patterns as you get older that, like I see it, my grandkids, like, if you keep going that direction, here's what's going to happen. Although I've never been down this path and never done this thing, I've seen something like this 100 times, right?
Yep. Yep. And
So
so then you make better decisions, often. Now it can also, I would think, maybe cause some cautionary, so it keeps us from taking more risks, like the younger, scaling startup, techies or whoever, these younger people who are just like, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to do all this, and our wise self might be like, that can be a little risky, don't put all your money into that. So we can, in some ways, I think it can negatively impact us because we don't just dive in and have fun with it,
well, youth and ignorance is a powerful
Yes.
thing. It's
Yes.
a very powerful thing.
Ignorance really is bliss. I think so.
I know I just read somewhere was Nathan Taleb or somebody was talking about how if some of these young people, if they knew the risk that they were involved in, they wouldn't start some of these companies, and thank God they did,
For sure. Yeah, that's why that's what's so great about, and that's why most of your, new innovation stuff happens in your 20s and into your 30s.
But I wonder how many of those guys who started those companies
And gals.
and took that risk had mentors who were older and
For sure.
more wisdom.
Yeah,
And
you
so
want to have that.
didn't steered them away from the icebergs, and made them work efficiently. And I know a guy who's the number 8 guy at number 8 hire at Facebook. And I mean, we all had a shot at Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Kills me. Anyway, Matt was the number
You
8.
did, I didn't.
Great hire at Facebook. And they hired him for his Rolodex. So somebody was guiding them because, they knew they wanted to be a media company. They knew they needed to be able to talk to advertisers and pitch and ideas and things like that. And he was always cutting edge, and he jumped on it.
Well, when I talk about this, one of the things, because I do career coaching for women in tech, and even though I coach at all levels within technology and all levels, all age levels and all of that, but what I hear more often when you start to approach the 50s and up is this idea of, how do I sell the fact that having someone who's wiser, who's been around the block a little bit, like doesn't get knocked off their game just because, something didn't launch as quickly as we would have liked it, or we had a problem, like there is real value in having, people who are on your product development team. We talk about having diversity, right? But it isn't just race or sex but having age diversity when
That's
you're developing these products would be, is so important.
you hear about companies. I wish I could remember which one it was. Hiring. I heard about a company. It was a tech company, an internet company, and it hired an older guy to teach the younger guys how to build relationships.
Yes.
They didn't know how to do that. And
Yes, they might be whiz bangs at the coding, but they don't really have, that experience. And that's what's so great about recognizing that you are now the sage and that there's so much value in that.
the other problem though, Laurie, is I think, and this is a person who maybe been doing the job for years and is basically phoning it in now. They've got enough wisdom where they can do in an hour what maybe took them 5 hours before, but unfortunately they're management. And so they're no longer really challenged.
For sure that happens.
And so then I think it's up to management, because sometimes these people don't see it and they just keep showing up. And then all of a sudden they're showed out. Shown out.
Right. And they're like shocked, and
or maybe they're not, maybe they saw it coming, but
maybe they're happy. Actually, they're like, I was so bored anyways.
But there is wisdom there. And if they're bored and they're not challenged, I think management has to be able to spot those traits and do something about it. And then they find out if this guy really wants to move forward, move on, be challenged with other things.
Sometimes they don't.
But can I take a different point on that? Can I take a different point of view from that? I don't think it's a company's job to recognize that in someone. I don't think there's a file folder with your name on it and somebody's drawer saying, this is Laurie's career path. This is Mark's career path, because it doesn't happen. Even in the best companies, it doesn't.
No, it isn't their job. But what separates? If you see someone who has the relationships and has the wisdom, and I don't know, they're bored and they're not doing anything to get themselves out of that, or so there's value there. And I would
there may be value there, but I think if the company has them, if they have another job for them where that value could be realized, but the company.
That's what I'm talking about. It would have to either create new challenges within that scope of work, whether it's a new direction or a new department or has moved over and up and over or whatever into something else. That's what it would probably be. Oh no, you can't go and say, "Hey, listen, you're really."
I mean, I think that could happen, and I think it might happen, but I don't think that happens very often. And I think it's more. I think it's more falls to the individual that I need to pivot.
I think you need to be in charge of your own career development and your own joy.
Your own joy, right?
If you are, if you're mailing it in every day at work. At some point you're going to recognize that you're really not happy, and
that person,
that's where coach comes in, right? To help you sort of see what you're not seeing, and give you, because I've done this for so long, like I know that there's a place for everyone, and that your wisdom, your skills, your gifts, your abilities can be used in some way in service of the whole. And yourself,
I want to talk about your consulting business now. And you're a recruiter, and as well, you've started a recruiting company, and but your consulting business now, and you focus on particularly women in tech. And having done this interview already, I kind of know some answers. I'm making up.
But our audience doesn't.
Our listeners did not know this.
On the cutting room floor somewhere. I don't know.
So, all right. So, tell us about your clientele now, the age range, and how coaching one end of their age range is different than coaching the other end of the age range.
Yeah. So, So I am very much focused on, coaching women in tech and tech adjacent careers. Um, and really the only, I guess I would say, requirement is that they recognize either the symptoms of being at a career crossroads, or they're very like, whatever I'm doing right now, I cannot keep doing this for another year. Like, I need to change something up. I talk about we have a free quiz on our website with the 4 stages of a career change cycle. And stage 1 is a career disruption, right? That's where either by choice or circumstance, you recognize that it's time for a change. So we're just talking about the manager who's kind of mailing it in, gets laid off. That's a disruption. But it also could be, hey, I recognize that every day I get out of bed going, okay, going to work. And every night I'm like, give me that bottle of wine. When am I going to get home? Like, let's turn on Netflix. Like, I call it over Xing. You start to have these habits where you're over drinking or overeating or over analyzing or over shopping or over sleeping. Those are all symptoms. It could be health related, but
Oh boy, now I'm
talking
in
about
trouble. She just named
right.
mine right there.
But in your career, those can be real symptoms that you are disengaged from work, and also feeling stuck, but not quite sure how to move yourself forward. So that could happen. Like for me, my first job as a coder, graduate from University of Texas, business degree, emphasis on information technology, super excited, joined a small software development firm. I'm coming in every day. I'm sitting at my cube, I'm coding. And about 2 months in, I'm like, oh my God, do I have to keep doing this? Like, this is awful. But I just thought that that's kind of what I was supposed to do. I didn't know any better. And if there had been a coach that said, you're miserable going to work, you're literally looking at the clock from the first hour you get in there, those are signs that you're not in the right place. But I didn't know any better. So you could be looking for the signs, or you could definitely recognize in yourself that you are not engaged with work, and it's time to find a coach that can help you discover what you really do enjoy and move into stage 2, which is career contemplation, and start contemplating what you might do instead. I got laid off, so I was definitely career disruption, but I did know at that point I was not going to find another coding job for a whole bunch of different reasons. And that led me into recruiting, which became my business and my passion for 20 years before I moved into coaching. And I loved every minute of it. 25 years.
I think that's a wide jump from going from coder to recruiter. Because to me, I mean, it's been my experience that those are 2 different people.
Right. I shouldn't have been a coder. I really should never have been a coder. I was good at it. I was never going to be a great coder. I was going to be adequate at best because it wasn't my wheelhouse, and it would never have made me happy. But I just was too young to know any better. And so I'm very grateful that they had the downsizing, and I was like the first on the list. I'm sure they could tell.
Let me ask you this. How often do you come across people who would just, pick the wrong, they thought they wanted this and they're not built for that? And
oh, I think it happens more often than you think. We have a culture that sort of, or our parents are like, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be an engineer, you should be a coder, that's where the money is, you should be a lawyer, like that sort of. And because again, we may not be fully in tune with our passions, our likes, our dislikes, we kind of go along. That sounds good. I mean, that's what happened to me. My mom literally said, I said, I don't really know what I want to major in. And she said, well, computers are going to be huge. She was right. Smart.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But, because I was, back in the 80s when I was in college. So desktops were just,
Just a kid. So I think where we see it a lot of times in my old career was guys who were people who were in roles that were back of the house roles.
Yeah.
And they were seeing sales, people making money and going out to lunch and going to parties and stuff like that. And everybody thought they wanted to be in sales.
Yes.
people thought they want to be in sales, and they find out they're not cut out for sales. You know,
They're miserable in it. They're miserable in it,
sales,
you know?
you're accountable. You got to be able to handle rejection. You've got to have grit and perseverance, and you know that from recruiting. So you know, it's
I think along that same lines is the interesting psychological fact, the biopsychological fact that our brains are not even done developing till we're like 25.
Exactly, exactly. So
We had this
no
conversation,
shame, right?
yeah,
That
we
you
have this
haven't figured it
conversation
out.
in this town all the time. What are we going to get our high schoolers to, what jobs are we going? I'm like, I can't believe we're having
That's
another
exactly
meeting
it,
about
Sam.
where these high schoolers are going to. They don't even,
at our public school. This was Manhattan Beach, very affluent community, very parent controlled. We had our own public school, in a 3 square mile area, all the way from kindergarten all the way up through high school. And in 7th grade, they were asking the kids to choose which track they wanted, the
Yeah.
UC track or the, Cal State track. I mean, which track they wanted to go on.
Yeah. They're asking you which college are you going to go to, what's your major going to be at a very young age. And so to Sam's question, yes, many people are off track right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Just because of the pressure that we put on them to have it all figured out, and so
one of my favorite commencement speeches ever was David Foster Wallace's This Is Water, and he's kind of saying that in his speech. Of course he lived here in Bloomington, so that's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he taught at ISU, but and I used to have some copies of it. It's bound. You could buy it bound.
I do. I have a copy of it. I keep wanting to put it in my newsletter, and I just haven't done it yet.
You put a link, a link to reading it. But I mean, it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, my point is that he's basically saying that is like, if you think you're on this track, you're probably
right.
What's the average now? 6 careers per person?
6 or 7, I've heard 7. I've heard 12. I mean, I've heard but a lot more than you think. Not like our grandparents or something where you were tired and got the gold watch, and that's just not how it is anymore. And even as a recruiter, I remember, let's say the first 10 or 15 years or more as a recruiter, the clients would, look at a resume and be like, job hopper, job hopper, job hopper. Right. That's not even a thing anymore. No. People have 2 years, 1 year, and they'll be like, that's fine with us. That's fine with us. I don't know. I think there needs to be a happy medium. That's my opinion. You need to see cycles of the business. You need to be able to, and so that means you should stay somewhere for a while, but not if you're not to the detriment of your health or your, mental health, physical health, I don't think you stay in a job just because you want to get 1 more year on your resume if it's killing you. And that
Laurie, you'll appreciate this. I have just happened this week, a client who we gave him a really nice candidate, and the client came back and said, I just don't think there's any way they're going to stay here 5 or 10 years.
Yep, you're right.
So that we're not hiring them. I'm like, oh God.
Yep. So that's where you go into the older, and that's the thing. And so then you'll be like, hey, if you look at someone who's 45 or 50, they do want to stay. And they're like, oh, they're too expensive. Oh, and so there's real bias going on there, and really missing out, back to the very beginning of what Mark was saying, really missing out on the wisdom that can come with someone who wants to just settle in, give back.
I think if someone thinks like that, Sam, they're setting themselves up for failure, because
absolutely they are. I think. I mean, first of all, I don't care who you hire. I don't care what age they are. To say they're going to be there 5 years from now is some kind of pipe dream.
Yeah.
If I ask you just 3 years ago to predict what happened,
right,
6 months before it happened, a month before it happened,
no one,
not one single human on this earth.
No. I mean, even in February of 2020, I was in Savannah, Georgia at a retreat, and hearing about this stuff, and nothing,
in a week's time, I was in San Antonio, Texas, at the end of February, going into March. And when I went down, there was some little talk of it. In a week's time, by the time I got on the plane to come back, it was lit
Yeah,
up.
I felt lucky to get home, to tell you the truth. I was like, oh,
And by the time we got back here, they had shut Illinois down.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
shut 'em
weekend,
down.
that following weekend, they shut Illinois down. So
Yep.
yeah, you tell me you want somebody for 5 years, okay, you know. But
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying. Are they willing to hire someone maybe that's
I
a
bought
little?
a farm.
Mark bought a farm right before. You know what I'll do?
That's a good idea.
I did.
I like it.
We got here 2 days before the lockdown.
Wow. That's
All the kids weren't working. They came up with their girlfriends and stayed, and we had a blast. 2 months, you know.
yeah, I know. I actually kind of I hate to say it, even though my father-in-law passed during COVID, I really enjoyed that time of, both my kids were in college, so they came home. And I don't know if they loved it, but I really did.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Grown
there's some
kids.
things I was grateful about, for
Yep.
that. And I know this is not necessarily a good thing, but because the schools were closed and my daughter works for me, my granddaughter was in class next
Right
door
there.
here.
Right. Isn't that great time with your
And
grandkids?
at the time I was like, yeah. So she would take breaks. I would come out of the office, we'd do stuff, and she would go
And you
back
talk
into
about taking
class. And,
risks. You're talking
What?
about taking risks. People did. They then said,
Yes.
let's buy that RV and travel across country. Let's start this business online and work from our house. Let's think about building something. Let's,
It absolutely sort of sparked innovation and creativity like nothing else. I have a creativity workshop coming, and I do think it was out of the COVID time where I started thinking, we can really be creative and solve career dilemmas. That's the program, but in ways that we never had really thought before. Because look what we did during COVID, and look
That
how we
sounds
changed.
interesting.
And companies, it's a cool.
So is that on your website, Laurie?
That's on my website. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
what's the website again?
it's InspiHERtech.com. So it's INSPI her HER Tech
Okay.
We'll
TECH.
share the link in
.com.
if
Okay.
this gets recorded, we'll
Hopefully.
share the link in our post and everything. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
to-
interesting. Creativity and careers. And I don't think there's a lot of that. I really don't. I think, it's the age old. I don't know that much has changed since we were in high school, Mark. You got a career counselor and
Yeah.
take a
People
test.
are-
Oh, you're probably made for this, so you go into that. And I don't know. I think there ought to be some creativity in it, but I don't.
I don't know. I there's a lot of things that I don't think I hit my natural. I mean,
Well,
think
you've been warned by law enforcement not to hit your natural.
where I could have been a lot more successful had I chosen a path, but
you never know that, and that's even my path. I went into a tire plant and started building tires as an hourly guy. But you don't know the things that you learn at those things, and the weave it takes you to be, as David Foster Wallace says, to become Mark Lips.
Right.
Well, and I think that's true. I think everything contributes to where we're going. Like there are no mistakes. So I don't ever think that me being a software developer was a mistake.
Yeah.
And honestly, it led me into technology recruiting that, I spent my whole that I don't know if I would have if my mom hadn't suggested that computers were going to be big. And I'm like, all right, then I'll do business because I like business, and I'll do technology because it's going to be big. And
How much time do we have, Sam?
We're down to 1 minute and 30 seconds.
oh, look at us.
Hey,
So-
let's smile. Let's all smile at the camera real quick, like we're taking a picture. All right.
So
Man, look, Mark, do not ask her about AI. I know it's I can see it in your eyes. Don't ask her about AI.
I'll bet you anything AI
Oh, don't go there.
is using it. So if we have to do this again, I'm playing Laurie next time.
There you go.
You're Sam.
Hey,
And
Laurie, I'm so sorry about the last one. I do appreciate your tolerance and coming back on with us because I was like, if we can't get her back on, I'm going to shoot myself. It was such a good interview, but I think maybe this one might have been better.
At least as good, if not.
At least as good, maybe better. So thank you.
I have to go back and redo the open.
Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry, but as it turned out, our other guest today couldn't make it. So, Laurie, thank you very much. We'll post all of your links and connections. And
thank you.
Once again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All the best to you all. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast.
What
Bye-bye.
you're saying, it's better than good enough.
That's right.
Good. 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 Enough. As good enough.